And we got to let it breathe while we get the here. Got to wait for a couple green check marks. Hope everybody in the chat is having a wonderful time as we get ready for playoff football. There's one green check mark. There's two. We're good to go.
Awesome. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers, your ultimate Broncos podcast for all your latest and greatest on your Denver Broncos. I'm Kenneth Booker, and here today with me is Mr. Erick Trickel, the OG of the Dove Valley Deep Divers. How you doing, Eric? How excited are you for these Denver Broncos for this upcoming matchup against the Buffalo Bills?
I am very excited. I mean, it's been a long time, obviously, since we haven't had a playoff game since we've been doing the show. So I'm very excited, even though it may not be shown, because following the playoff game, I turned 33 years old, and I'm not looking forward to that whatsoever.
It's fine.
So it's
20's the new 30's the new 20.
I wish that were true, but it's but on a serious note, I'm really excited for it. It's fun to be covering and playoff football again, especially with the drought that we've had. It's fun to have that excitement for a game because let me tell you, if it wasn't obvious, there were times where I wasn't the most excited for a Broncos game over the past almost 10 years. Not quite, because obviously the Super Bowl and everything. But it's been a while, but this year that excitement started to come back, especially towards the end of the season, which is why, the Bengals game was such a letdown and, the Chargers game as well. Like, you get excited for these games. You have a chance to clinch the playoffs so early, and then it comes down to beating the C squad of the Kansas City Chiefs in the season finale to finally clinch it, which I'm glad they did. But I'm excited. I'm glad we're here. They definitely deserve it. I'm also very excited that 5 all-pros from this roster were selected to the AP team, which is really nice and really great to see. And we definitely have Chase Woolner coming in and says, not bad for the worst roster in the NFL, huh?
Hell yeah, Chase.
I'll give them this. The roster still wasn't great, but it's better in certain areas than a lot of people thought they would be, and me too. I'm one of those people. Nick Bonito far exceeded my expectations. Zach Allen, I expected big things from him this year. I wrote about it. He exceeded expectations.
Wow.
And since he'll be joining us here a little bit later, I got to throw a little shade because before the season started, I talked about my season stat projections for Bo Nix. 3,500 yards, about 25 touchdowns to about 10 interceptions. And he's at about 37. He's almost 3,800 yards, 29 touchdowns, 11 or 12 interceptions. So not bad for me, huh? Right, Lance? Right? I see you in the green room listening. But no, I'm excited. And how are you doing with this playoff game?
I'm super excited. Yeah, I'm a lifelong Bronco fan since I was like 5 years old or whatever. Yeah. So I was always used to the playoffs, and it was starting to get depressing. We were starting to have those years where even if we were in it at the end of the season, whatever, I didn't really have as much faith as I usually do. And Bo Nix has brought that back. This defense has brought that back. And then what you're saying, how that we didn't have the greatest roster, this coaching staff has brought us back to get the most out of their players. And it's really awesome to be part of it. And I'm super excited. And I hope everybody in the room is as well. And man, I can't stop smiling.
So before we get into it, let's the game and we bring Lance in here. Let's talk about this all-pro team a little bit. Obviously, Quinn Miners being first team all-pro, 100% deserved. He definitely should have been a Pro Bowler, not just an alternate. I stand by that. I will pound the table for that. Him and Zach Allen both. And it's great that they have both been recognized as, all pro members. Patrick Surtain, he's obviously is a clear choice. He's been the best corner this season. Not consistently great. There were some hiccups with penalties, but he just what he did do consistently was shut down opponents' number one receivers, which we'll be talking about that a little bit when we get to this playoff game more. But I think every single player who made it absolutely deserved it, and the 2 second team all pro players also deserved it.
Who were the second team guys? Do you remember?
Nick Bonito was one of them, I think, who ended up being second team.
Oh, okay.
And I can't remember who the other second team player was. Okay. Garrett Bowles might have been second team.
Let's see.
I can't remember for sure.
Hopefully. Yeah, he had a great season this year. Anyway, sorry. I'll find that.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the all pro rosters too, but all I found was just a thing about Lamar Jackson being the first team all pro quarterback, which the last time, fun stat and off topic here, the last time that a quarterback was favored to win MVP and was the first team all pro where they didn't win MVP was 1987 with John Elway.
Oh, okay.
So
have you seen sorry, go ahead.
So everybody's believing that Lamar Jackson is the MVP this year.
Oh, okay. Have you seen John Elway's MVP stats? Oh, Bonito and Allen. Okay.
Yeah. Allen was second team, which irks me. I thought I was mistaking. Marvin Mims made it as the first team returner. I was thinking second team returner. Allen made it as the first team. Okay. Either way, Allen deserved to be first team.
Oh, definitely. He was a beast all year. He had a little low in the middle, but he finished strong. He had 3.5 sacks in the last game. I know it was against Backups, but it's still 3.5 sacks.
Bengals game.
Bengals. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. But yeah, he had a slight lull there, but it wasn't because his play declined. It was because teams started focusing on him and he just started doing what he could and opened up the door for somebody else. That's when we saw a big burst from Nick Bonito with his sacks. Had like 3 or 4 in a couple games. We had John Myers get a few sacks. I think Malcolm Roach got one in there in that span and a lot of it, when you go back and watch the sacks, if you watch Zach Allen, it wasn't all him, but he helped pave the way for a lot of those sacks to happen. Very unselfish player, which Nick Bonito and a couple other guys talked about leading up to this game, is being unselfish up front, especially against a quarterback like Josh Allen, which is also something we'll get to here in a little bit. But before we get into this playoff game, we do have a ad read from our presenting sponsor for tonight.
All right. So we're going to talk about some Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. With over 5 million happy players and over $2 billion won, Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in on all your favorite athletes' performances. Compete against any other players by just selecting higher or lower on 2 or more players' stats, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog.
Yeah, with their champs game, you can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on a player's stats, like passing yards, interceptions, touchdown, and so much more. Like, for an example, will Bo Nix have higher or lower than 221.5 passing yards next week? Or will he have higher or lower than 1.5 passing touchdowns? Every dog deserves a second chance. And with Underdog Rescues, you can get your money back and receive a promo if an early injury causes your entry to lose.
Download the Underdog app today and use the code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, download the Underdog app today and use our code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Every play, every touchdown, to select higher or lower on Underdog.
Now, you must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Thank you, Underdog, for the sponsorship. Now, we're going to switch focus here. All pros, great and everything like that. But, I mean, for this roster, for all the talk about it, having 5 guys make it, 3 to the first team, 2 to the second team, we're all here to talk about playoff football. We're here to talk about this game against the Buffalo Bills. This is what we're focused for. And joining us tonight is Lance Sanderson. Unfortunately, he's gracing us with his presence tonight.
Hey,
Lance, how you doing, man?
Mile high hello, everybody in Broncos country, and welcome into a great episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. The first time in at least my existence at Mile High Huddle that we've actually gotten to break down Denver Broncos football in January. That's actually meaningful. First playoff game. Dude, I'm excited. I'm so incredibly excited to be here. Thank you for allowing me to join on my show, damn it. No, it's great to be here, guys. I'm again super excited to join you. And I'm again, how many times do I need to say excited? Let's just have some fun tonight. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have you on. It's been since July since you and I
Yep.
have jumped on a show together.
Yep.
If memory serves me right, maybe there was a time there. I don't think there was though.
No, I haven't been
Um,
on with you since the middle of July when I started this new job, and
yeah.
it's I've been on it with a couple of different other hosts and had some fun. I've
So
chatted up with Kenny a couple different times. Carl, I think it was on with Nick once in there too. So, but no, it's good to be back, man.
So that just means I'm going to make your life extra difficult tonight since I've got months to make up for. But before we get into this conversation, we do have David Papa Bear McIlrath coming in with a $5 donation. Thank you, Papa Bear. We appreciate that. Saying good evening, Broncos country. Hashtag 1-0. Let's go, Bo. Hashtag MHH for life. Hashtag Buckham ×3. That's Buckham, YouTube. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life. Hashtag Knicks for 6 and hashtag SEAL Team Knicks. Papa Bear, we appreciate you every single week, every single show. We appreciate you so much coming in and throwing in your support for all the shows. And we have Phil McLaughlin coming in saying, good evening, Kenneth and Eric. No hello for you, Lance. Really hoping we can keep pressure on Josh Allen contained and put pressure on him. We can get some turnovers. Hashtag Buckham, hashtag MHH for life, and hashtag Broncos for life. Phil won't forget about you. Phil says hello, Lance. So passing this over to you first, Kenneth. Sacks. Obviously, that's a big thing. We have the team that led the NFL in sacks this year versus the team that allowed the fewest sacks in this year. It's pivotal. I mean, the Broncos, and it goes both ways here. In games where the Bills are able to get 2 sacks or more, they are 11-0. Where the games where the Broncos allow 2 or more sacks, they are 2-7. Sacks are a huge thing for both sides, both offenses. How do the Broncos sit there and help generate this pressure and not just that, bring down Josh Allen, who is so incredibly hard to actually sack lately?
So for me, I think you have to gang tackle Josh Allen and anybody on the Bills offense. You can't let them get those extra yards and break for those first downs and stuff like that. Those are huge momentum killers. You got to play aggressive. This is our first time in the playoffs, so we got to play like we haven't been there before. We got to play like we're not scared of anybody. And that pass rush it's just huge. That's how we beat Brady all those years. That's how the Giants beat Brady in the Super Bowl. You get that quarterback off his mark. You get him thinking a little more. You get him rushing his passes, and then we have our secondary who can really make him pay for that. So hopefully they show up big time.
Yeah, now Josh Allen, he threw 16 touchdown passes, which is tied for the second most in the NFL this year, and only 1 interception while facing a blitz. Mm-hmm. And the Broncos are a team that sent a blitz on 37.3% of their dropbacks this season, which is the 4th highest rate in the NFL, while allowing 6.9 yards per pass attempt. So, Lance, passing this over to you, how do the Broncos kind of get that pressure, something they struggle to do, without blitzing? Or how do they cover up those holes that open when you blitz to help make their blitzes be more effective against Josh Allen and the Bills?
Well, I think Nick Bonito kind of talked about it a couple of days ago in one of the press conferences, saying, you have to be really disciplined in your rush lanes. You have to stay within the pass rush and rush as a unit, not as a singular. You have to understand that if you get outside of your rush lane, if you try to play hero ball against Josh Allen, all it does is just open up these gigantic rush lanes. And if he gets rolling to his right, he is electric pushing the ball down the football field. So you really have to try to keep him contained within the pocket. And when you do get home, again, it's wrap up. You got to watch out for that quick first step explosiveness that he does have when he does want to break contain. If he does want to rush up the field through the B gaps, which is what he does at an all-time elite level. Like, seriously, he's so incredibly fun to watch when doing that. But I think a big part of this is, you guys were talking about Zach Allen and how he was snubbed as a first-team All-Pro. He led all interior defensive linemen this season with 67 total pressures. I think that this is going to be a big matchup for him to really watch out against this Bills offensive line. Now, the Bills offensive line is 6th in pass block win rate this season, but Zach Allen, that dude has been a menace for everybody. It doesn't matter who's in front of him. He is always constantly winning one-on-ones, and he has a high pressure rate even when he's double teamed. Like, to me, it's Zach Allen. That's the key to this, is to collapse the pocket, keep the edges contained with Bonito and Jonathan Cooper, and that's really how you try to eliminate bringing these blitz packages and allow your defense to play tight man coverage on the outside.
Yeah. Now, Josh Allen, he does like to hold the ball along. He averaged the longest average time to throw at 3.35 seconds, but he was only sacked on 4.3% of his dropbacks. So, and he likes to scramble. He also has the fourth highest scramble rate at 19.4%.
Mm-hmm.
The Broncos, you touched on it, and I wanted to get into that point of Nick Benito staying disciplined to your rushing lanes because it's against a quarterback like Josh Allen, against a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, you have to stay disciplined in your rush lanes. Otherwise, you create that gap for them to go make plays with your legs or make plays with their legs by buying more time, by those receivers getting open, those tight ends, those running backs. And it's something that we see that the Broncos do with Bo Nix. Now, flipping the picture a little bit, Kenneth, for you, there's kind of some emotion to this game. The Broncos are looking for their first playoff win since Super Bowl 50. And who was the hero for that game? Von Miller. And he stands on the other side as he's searching for his third ring now.
Yeah.
And he is not the player he was. Let's be clear. He's definitely not. He hasn't played over 500 sacks in his 3 seasons with the Bills and has only played more than 300 snaps in his time with the Bills once, that first season there. This last 2 seasons, it's been under 200. He's a part-time pass rusher who's been dealing with some injuries. However, since the Week 12 bye this year, he's generated 19 pressures on 79 pass rushes, which would be a league high of a 24.1 pressure rate over that span. Mike McGlinchey, we have seen his issues. He's a great run blocker, but there can be some issues in pass blocking. With the limitations, with how limited Von Miller is, what do the Broncos need to do to make sure that when he is out there on the field, he doesn't stand in their way of them getting their playoff win and they keep him from advancing to make his third Super Bowl? Hopefully that makes sense.
I guess it just depends on Lance Sanderson, his trust in McGlinchey. If he's going to let him be out there by himself the entire time, or let him at least start out there by himself with Von Miller. But Von Miller's one of those guys you just don't want him to get started going. Once he starts going, it's over. That guy's just going to destroy your entire game. So I'm hoping he can hold him by himself, whatever. Maybe have a tight end chip or a running back out there. Maybe Javonte, he hasn't been the greatest this year, but he is a decent pass blocker. He can help out over there. But I really don't see him making a big impact. I see him maybe having a chance for a sack or two, but I think Bo is a little too quick to where maybe when he was younger, he would have got those sacks, but I think Bo might be able to sneak out a couple of those. So hopefully I'm right on that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he'll have the biggest impact because again, he just doesn't play a whole lot, but when he's on the field, he has been an impactful player. For this Bills team as a rotational guy. Now, Lance, going over to you, obviously we talked about the Broncos getting pressure on Josh Allen. There's going to be a focus from the Buffalo Bills about generating pressure on Bo Nix because he has had some issues with pressure all season long, going up until the Chargers game and even the Bengals game. There were some moments where he struggled against pressure. They have a group of pass rushers there, led by Gregory Rousseau with 8 sacks. Von Miller has 6 on the season. AJ Epineza has 6. Ed Oliver is a bit of a down year, has 3 sacks. But they have shown there are 14 guys who have at least 1 sack this season on that defense. They've shown that they can generate pressure from all sorts of places. And Sean McDermott does a great job of disguising blitzes cautiously, I guess is the way. What the Broncos offensive line, they've done a good job of protecting Bo Nix, but what do the Broncos need to do to make sure that they don't have those lapses in their blocking, to make sure that they're making their pre-snap reads correctly from Bo Nix? And is this a game where they really should be focused on having that hot read, that red read in case that pressure does come?
So that last part is actually something I kind of want to touch on. The hot read is going to be critical here, but quite honestly, I think that you need to run the football. The best way to negate a great pass rush is to run directly at it. And especially along the interior of this Bills defensive line, where you've got all-pro Quinn Miners, you've got Ben Powers, who leads the NFL this season in run blocking win rate. And the Bills interior defensive line really struggles against top-level guards that play with strength in a phone booth. And I went back and watched the Los Angeles Rams game from earlier this season. I was watching it earlier today, and on inside zone and duo type blocking plays, the Rams had insane success early in that game. They were just creating wide open running lanes, and that's something that the Broncos do really well this year. It's difficult because Javonte Williams is not really seeing it the right way. But if they get Audric Estime going, a guy who's seen it really well, runs really well behind inside zone and duo, that's really going to help negate this pass rush. It's also going to open up some play action passing, which is where Bo Nix has had a lot of success this season. Moving pockets, getting him outside, throwing on the run. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this year in doing that. And to me, if you're going to negate this pass rush, if you can run directly at it, open up some outside of the pocket passing plays for Bo Nix and allow this passing game to, I've talked about it multiple different times before, get open receivers into second and third windows across the middle of the field against a Tampa 2 defense, you can have a lot of success against this Bills defense moving forward.
Yeah, now the issue with that is that these two Bills linebackers, Dorian Williams and Terrell Bernard, are absolutely phenomenal against the run. Like, there are issues with this Bills defense against the run, but it isn't because of them. It is often because of their front line failing to do the jobs, allowing the end blocker to get free and get on them, and take the linebackers out of the play with the safeties not doing the best job of coming in and filling in. But yeah, I'm with you on that. I think that they do got to run the ball. They got to focus on it. And this is one game where Sean Payton can't pull his usual crap that he's done this season of get a successful run game going and then go away from it completely for whatever reason he decides. This is one game you got to get the run game going. You got to stick with it. And if you can't get the run game going early, you still have to stick with it. Now we have Phil McLaughlin coming in. Guys, do you think we will see Beatty this week? What do you think, Kenneth?
I don't think so. If he didn't see him the last couple weeks, I don't think he's coming in this week. I think he's pretty much just, unless somebody gets hurt, whatever, he's not going to play the rest of the year.
Lance?
I wish they would see him. I'm not sure that you're going to, unless you got something from somebody you're hearing anything otherwise. I don't know. I know they activated his practice window a couple of weeks ago, and it sounded like they were going to try to get him some run against the Kansas City Chiefs, but they never actually did that. I believe he was a game day inactive. I don't remember 100%. But if they do get Tyler Bidet on the field, that might be the X factor that nobody's seen since the Jets game, where actually, quite honestly, since the Tampa Bay game, where he looked like the best running back on this roster, just point blank, period. And then he got hurt early in the Jets game. So if he does come back, you have no film on this guy.
Now, I'm going to say no, we don't see him back. And for this reason, they did open his practice window from the injured reserve, but they did not activate him off of injured reserve. And I think that he is not able to be, because the Broncos it's a playoff game on Sunday. He is not eligible to be activated tomorrow. I might be mistaken on that. But this will be the end of his 21 days. So if they don't activate him, we won't see him again this year. He's still technically on injured reserve. And the fact that they haven't activated him yet makes me doubt that they're going to, and they're just going to, let him revert to just regular injured reserve going forward. And we have Gary Palmer coming in. Thank you, Gary Palmer. We appreciate this so much. Saying, good to see all the DVDD crew. Bo leave in the Broncos, #1-0. It is definitely great to have both of you guys on. It is definitely
we haven't been. We haven't been together since the meet and greet where we all hung out and
that first meet and greet. We
went around the town.
Essentially spent the day together and had some fine food and some fine drinks and some fine conversations. But no, I was going to say is that the vibes are good tonight. It's a chill show. It's going good and seems to have some good playoff type energy to it. Now, Kenneth, we've talked about, the importance of getting pressures on it. But in this game, for say the Broncos offense against this Bills defense, what is that one matchup that you're really looking forward to watching, or the one that the Broncos really need to attack and try to exploit?
For pass rush or just a matchup in general?
Just in general.
Riley Moss and McMillan against the other receivers. I know they're going to be tested, and I want to see how they hold up. I want to see if they're going to be aggressive, and if they get a call, if they're going to continue to be aggressive, if they're going to play a little safer. And I want to see if they put them more in man instead of a ton of zone coverage, because they tend to struggle a lot. And so I want to see those guys play. I'm really excited to see Moss and McMillan play.
What about you, Lance?
That's actually almost exactly where I was going to go, but I'm going to go in a different direction here. You kind of alluded to it a little bit with the Broncos linebackers, Ty Johnson and James Cook, specifically against Cody Barton and Justin Strnad. That matchup is going to be absolutely critical because according to Mina Kimes, I don't have the number specifically right here, and my phone's in the other room charging, but Nick brought it to the group chat the other day and talking about the Broncos linebackers in coverage, the worst in the NFL in terms of yards allowed per pass play, I think is what it was, 6.3 yards per play. Eric, do you have that pulled up?
So the Denver linebackers are second worst in DVOA and yards given up per pass at 6.3 yards.
Yep. So that to me right now, and especially the way that Josh Allen, again, escaping the pocket, looking down the field, watching those running backs release, and also in the screen game. They did a really good job against the Rams in the screen game, opening up Ty Johnson out in the boundary. And those two players, they are electric with the football in their hands. Their first step explosiveness, their vision, their ability to hit to top speed and run away from players, their ability to erase angles down the football field. Cody Barton specifically is the one I'm looking to here. Strnad has had ups and downs in coverage this season, but Cody Barton against Ty Johnson and James Cook, that's the critical matchup to watch for this Broncos defense.
Now, who do you put Patrick Surtain on?
Oh man. That's interesting because his ability to just erase, I don't want to say one side of the field because it's not really, it's accurate, but it's not 100% the truth here. His ability to erase the team's number one wide receiver has been elite this season. You guys talked about it when they were talking about the all pros. I believe DK Metcalf had 2 catches for 14 yards. Like Garrett Wilson was targeted 3 times, 1 catch for like 13 yards. He's been insanely good this season. To me, I wonder if you actually have to try to line him up against Dawson Knox or Dalton Kincaid. Maybe try to get a bigger body, more lengthy player that has some quality tackling ability and just the ability to cover pretty much anybody down the football field. Maybe that's the key to this game. Maybe you allow Amari Cooper to go one-on-one against Riley Moss and just take your lumps if you're going to do that. The big matchup to me, though, is Khalil Shakir against Jaquan McMillan. That's another critical matchup specifically because Khalil Shakir has probably been the most reliable receiver for this Bills offense all season long. So that's a big matchup there. In terms of Surtain, I wonder if you just Swiss Army knife him and say, you're going to go lock down whoever's in front of you, play press man, and just go. It doesn't matter where you're lined up. Doesn't matter who's lined up against you. Just lock up that one guy. And if you're lined up against a tight end, so be it.
Now, Kenneth, I'm going to pass this off to you here in just a second, but we have Cody W coming with a $2 donation saying, seen it -200 odds. I don't get betting, so I'm sure I said that. Is it -200? How do you say it?
I think it's -200.
Yep,
-200 odds on Denver getting Tyler Warren. Hey, I'm all for it. I'd be all for it. Denver needs that top tight end guy. They don't have it. Tyler Warren, Loveland out of Michigan. I'd be all for either one of those guys, especially with Denver picking likely. Well, we know for sure in the bottom 10 or so picks of the NFL draft. So we know that. And I think would be a pretty good value with the way this draft class is looking up because it's not looking to be so good. But we'll get to more on the draft here. I mean, obviously here in a couple and hopefully a matter of weeks and not next week. But we'll have to see. It all depends on how this playoff game goes. But Kenneth, for you, what are you doing with Patrick Surtain in this great number one receiver eraser when the Bills don't really have a number one guy?
You probably just play him straight up. There's just no favorites. Maybe if somebody starts to get hot, you start to rotate him over towards that person. But I just don't see anybody that really scares me on their team on the receiving core. So you might as well just play him straight up. Riley Moss can take any of these guys. PS2 can take any of these guys. So I don't know. I think they can hold their own. There's no Jamar Chase running around on there, no T Higgins. So I think they'll hold their own. They'll be fine. And that pass rush is going to definitely aid in that because they're not going to have to cover them as long as maybe some other people have. As long as we can bring Josh Allen down when he starts to scramble, or at least make him throw it away.
Eric, what do you think? Before we move on, I want your opinion on this. What do you do with Surtain?
You put him on Amari Cooper or Keon Coleman.
Oh, I forgot about Keon Coleman. That's a good one too. I forgot about Keon Coleman.
I think you do that no matter what, and then you hope and pray Brandon Jones and your linebackers can take away Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, and those running backs, and that Jaquan McMillan can take care of Khalil Shakir, who plays mostly out of the slot.
Yep.
Or when he's out on the boundary, you have Riley Moss on him. And then Riley Moss can handle the other one of Keon Coleman or Cooper whenever they are on the field together. But the Bills, they run one of the highest rates of jumbo packages, of going big in these bigger personnel groupings, a lot of 2 tight end sets, which is one reason why I am not very confident in the Broncos pulling this one out. These running backs and these tight ends against these linebacker groups of the Broncos is a significant concern. Cody Barton, he sure has some splash plays against coverage, but my God, when you watch him, it is maddening, because when he's not making those big splash plays, he is often doing something wrong. And Justin Strnad started off the season hot, but the last 6 or so weeks has been not so good from him either in coverage. We have seen the Los Angeles Chargers, they specifically targeted these guys by freezing them with play action, because this is an aggressive defense. So they ran a lot of play action, and they hit that over route to Ladd McConkey over them so consistently, and we saw how that turned out. And then they did the same thing with Mike Gesicki in just a different way. It wasn't a lot of play action with him. They just trusted him to win those matchups straight up, and he did. And we could see the Bills do a combination of those to attack these guys. This, for me, is the biggest weakness for the Broncos if they want to win this game. They have to figure out something to stop these running backs and tight ends. What about for you, Kenneth? What's the biggest concern with this matchup for the Broncos?
Biggest concern is just Bo Nix surviving the first half for me on this team. Because if he could survive the first half and keep it a close game, I think this is a game. If they start to get blown out like right off the bat, it's going to be a long day. It's going to remind people of the Seattle Seahawks Super Bowl, where you're just like, come on, just get me a first down. And it's just every time they get a first down, they throw an interception or I don't know, whatever. So it's I just want to see him survive that. If he can, I think his confidence will be fine after that. And I think the defense will thrive. And I think that it'll be who wants it more at that point. But yeah, I don't know. I think he will. I think he'll be all right.
What about you, Lance?
Coaching. Plain and simple. Sean Payton and Vance Joseph, both of those 2 guys have my eyes directly on them. My antennas are up. How exactly are you going to go into this game? They went against the Bills, or the Bengals, excuse me, and they got away from the running game. That was on live TV. Sean Payton had it on his play call sheet. Run it. 3 exclamation points, all capital letters. They ran the ball 6 times or 7 times in the second half. Then you get, or it was at the Chargers game. That doesn't really matter. And then Vance Joseph specifically on defense. What are you going to do here? Are you going to try to be aggressive and blitz Josh Allen, which, again, Eric, you said he has, 16 touchdown passes and 1 interception against the blitz this season. And that 1 interception, I believe, went through a receiver's hands and was luckily intercepted on that particular play. And are they going to try to play zone? And if they play against zone coverage against this team and Josh Allen has time to throw, he's going to pick this defense apart. I think they have to get after Josh Allen. I think they have to be aggressive up front, and I think they have to play press man coverage across the board. Just play it up straight and simple. You've got to force tight window throws against Josh Allen, and you've got to try to get him off, not really get him off of his spot, but get him uncomfortable in the pocket. If you allow him to run around and get outside and create and extend plays, that's going to be devastating for this team. So it's kind of a double-edged sword here. Do you play press man? Do you play with an aggressive mindset, or do you back the dogs off and try to keep him contained to then he's just going to pick you apart with his arm? So and you raise a very good point here. Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks against man coverage. The Broncos are one of the best defenses in man coverage. Josh Allen struggles against zone coverage, and the Broncos have been one of the worst defenses when they're using zone coverage. For me, and this is something that Kenneth can attest to, for months, I've been screaming at these Broncos to stick to your strengths. You are such a good man team. Stick to man, blitz. And if you get beat that way, you get beat that way. I'd rather stay true to who you are and how you built this team. An aggressive man blitzing team on defense, especially. Same applies to offense. Stay aggressive as you are, which is one reason why the whole 2-point conversion thing that Sean against the Bengals drives me nuts. But that's neither here nor there for this one. Is you got to stick to what it is. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. You live by man coverage, blitz heavy man coverage. You die by blitz heavy man coverage. Can I elaborate really quick? Can I
Sure.
elaborate on that really quick? And this is something that they did it against Lamar Jackson, and Lamar just picked him apart in the zone coverage because they were so scared of Lamar beating him with his legs. And obviously, he's the best running quarterback that we've probably ever seen. And in fact, he just broke Michael Vick's record doing it. Josh Allen can beat you with his legs. And I'm not saying just allow him to run all over you, but if you make Josh Allen beat you with his legs and make him run the football down the field, that's not the worst thing that you've done defensively, quite honestly, in this game. This may be a hot take. I would rather see Josh Allen running the football down the field, and so long as you can just wrap him up and tackle him, that's completely different than allowing him to extend plays and create explosive passing plays down the field. And this defense is going to die by that. If they allow Josh Allen to win with his arms by extending those plays, it's going to be a long day for this Broncos defense. Let him run. It's okay to let him run every now and again. You have to just try to contain as much as you possibly can. He's going to beat you no matter what, but don't let him extend the play and then throw those deep shots down the field. That's where this Bills offense has succeeded the most specifically, is in the second act, throwing the football down the field. If that happens, game over, plain and simple.
Yeah, and we have Northcutt Productions coming in. Bills play zone 2, and Bo does well against zone defense. Bo has actually been middle of the pack against zone defense on the season, whereas he's been just outside the top 10, not much better. He's been about 15, 16, 17 against zone, and then he's like 11 or 12 or 13 against man coverage. So he's done all right against both. The issue that he has against zone coverage is when they start disguising their blitzes and they start hiding who's coming, which is something that Sean McDermott does a lot. When they make things confusing for the quarterback, the defenses do. That is where Bo Nix has had some issues this year. We saw it again early on against the Bengals. We saw it against the Chargers. In both games, he had these kinds of issues against it. So this is something that I'm going to be curious about, is what Sean Payton, Davis Webb come together with Bo Nix to figure out to help him handle these disguised looks, because Sean McDermott is one of the better coaches in the NFL at disguising his coverages. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say he's top 3, but he's definitely top 5, and I don't think he's 5. He just does such a good job with it. And the other thing is they love to play nickel.
Okay.
They have the highest rate of playing nickel in the NFL. It's like almost 3% of the time. It's like 82.7% of the time or something like that. Mm-hmm. Denver doesn't have the tight ends to take advantage of it when they're in nickel, because when you're nickel, you want to go get that bigger body out there and take advantage of the matchup. So this is a game for me where I'm really looking at one of these tight ends to really step up and provide that outlet for Nix, for if things are a little muddy deeper down the field, or 10 plus yards on the field, that he can turn to his tight end and trust his tight end to get open for you. Now, we did their offense against this defense. What matchup for this Broncos offense against this defense are you guys excited to watch? Starting with you, Lance.
Marvin Mims. I'm very, very excited. Actually, you know what? Let me take that back. I alluded to it a little bit earlier. It's Audric Estime in the running game. That's the matchup that I want to see. I want to see Quinn Miners going up against DaQuan Jones and Ed Oliver and Quentin Jefferson and Austin Johnson. Those guys, Ben Powers, the same thing. Inside zone and duo, and allow Audric Estime to get ahead of steam rolling forward and just run him into the ground. This is the game to me. I think it really bodes well for this Broncos offense if you just allow Audric Estime to finally develop a hot hand, because when he gets to that second level, he's so incredibly hard to bring down. And that's the easiest way to keep an elite offense off the field: run the football and control the clock. That's the most crucial matchup that you have right now. And if Audric Estime can get going, you get him an anytime touchdown score. I think it's like plus 250. It's a great odds if you want to bet that. That guy, and the way that he's carrying the football, the way that he's playing with confidence in this running scheme, is huge against this Bills defense.
What about you, Kenneth?
I guess Bo Nix's ability to flip the field. You're not going to score touchdowns and field goals on every drive, but you're going to have to put them deep in their side of the field to make them travel the entire length of the field. If you have Josh Allen out there starting drives at the 40 and the 50-yard line, it's going to be a long day. So I also think we also got to keep our composure if we do have a turnover deep in our side, because we are pretty good about that, about holding teams to field goals when it clearly should be a touchdown most likely, because they are so deep in our side. So I want to see if this defense can continue to hold their composure if we fall behind or if there is a turnover deep on our side.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's again, as I was getting at, it's these tight ends. One of these guys has to step up. They have to. You can't. You are going to find a much tougher game for yourself if you don't get one of your defenses, one of these tight ends to step up against this defense. This has been a weak spot for the Bills. The linebackers are really good against the run, but they do create some openings in coverage that the Broncos, again, just got to find that guy to step up and fill that void. And we do have Peter Johnson coming in asking if anybody knows the weather conditions for this game. We haven't covered it yet, but from what I can find, it looks like it's supposed to be gentle winds of about 6 miles per hour and about 30 degrees for the game.
Yep.
Oh, that's not too bad.
There's supposed to be snow tonight and tomorrow night in Buffalo, then a brief reprieve on Sunday. Supposed to be mostly blue skies, like Eric said, light winds, 30, 31 degrees at kickoff, and then on Monday it's supposed to start snowing again. So the Broncos actually caught kind of a break given the weather in Buffalo, especially in early January.
Yeah, definitely. That place is brutal.
And Peter Milton comes in with a good question. Who would you trust in the run, and would you also trust our tight ends? I have a very skeptical answer on this, but I'll let Kenneth kick this off, and then Lance, you can take it after that.
It seems like Julio's the most trustworthy of the backs. The other guys, either Javonte doesn't know where the hole is. He just isn't any. I don't know. He is who he is. Estime's had some issues holding on the ball, but as of late, he's been pretty good on that. I don't know. That's kind of hard between those two because you want to get the guy who can run between the tackles and get you 3 or 4 yards every time. You don't want the guy who's going to be dancing around and getting tackled 3 yards in the backfield. So I still go with Julio because I think he has that little bit of that mentality that he's not going to dance around as much, only when he has to. So yeah, Julio's the one I would trust in. And the tight ends, I don't know. I don't know. Kroll, because somebody forgets about him, I guess. I don't know. I think, yeah, maybe our tight ends get forgot about a little bit on the defense, and maybe they're able to get a couple of key first downs. But I don't have any specific tight end that I trust more than others.
All right, Lance, what about you?
I've pounded on it a couple times. Audric Estime. I know the fumbles early in the year; those were the issue. But again, this team, the Bills do a great job at the second level tackling. Eric, you kind of alluded to it, and they're fast too. Dorian Williams, Terrell Bernard, they are fast sideline to sideline. So you got to get right in their grill, get in their kitchen, just run them right down their throats. And in terms of our tight ends, Savage Boy Kev just comes in. I trust Adkins the most. And I think the versatility that Nate Adkins brings, you can line him up in the backfield, move him across the formation if you need to. He's not the best blocker, but capable, I guess. And maybe you can get him lined up one-on-one against Bernard, who kind of struggles in that aspect. But that's the creativity. I think that this is a big moment for Sean Payton to get creative in his usage of Nate Adkins. And when you've seen it, National Tight Ends Day, they got him one time. They ran him. I think it was the Chargers game. They got him across the field into the left flat. Bo Nix hit him for a touchdown. Not remember specifically. I remember the play, but I don't remember the specific game. But I think that Adkins is probably the one that if you're going to trust in any of these tight ends right now, Adkins is probably the guy that I would utilize the most, just given his versatility against this defense.
Now, for my answer is I've trusted too many people that have burned me and continue trusting them. I don't trust things that burn me anymore. I am tired of trying to trust these running backs to get something going. And not just the running backs. I'm tired of trying to trust Sean Payton to get something, the run game going and sticking with it. But non-skeptical answer aside, I would, as long as it's not Javonte Williams, he's
oh man,
he's not good, and it's a shame because a lot of these issues that we're seeing. I mean, some of them have been there in college. His issue with vision, seeing the holes, running into the backs of his own blockers. It's always been there. Mm-hmm. But what made him great was breaking tackles. Mm-hmm. And ever since his injury, he just hasn't been himself. Mm-hmm. And it's a shame that his injury just derailed him as much as he has. It is an injury that most running backs don't come back from. And if they do, it takes a while. I mean, we're starting to see some reemergence of J.K. Dobbins, who had a similar one, but it's been a couple years since then, been a few years. As for tight ends, Nate Adkins is the best tight end on this roster, and at best, he should be the second tight end. Adam Trotman is at best the third tight end. We had William Catalano coming in saying, when you see Trotman get knocked on his butt by a smaller safety and he's our best blocking tight end, that's a problem. 2 seasons of it.
Yep.
I've been hounding about Adam Trotman not being very good for 2 seasons, and just because he makes one play every 6 or 7 games, it's not enough to stick with him. You definitely need to upgrade the room, and Lucas Kroll, I'm all the way out on. This dude is somehow a worse blocker than Greg Dulcich, and his one play every 9 games isn't enough to make up for it.
Well, I think with Troutman, there's such a loyalty from Sean Payton. It's almost to a fault. He's so loyal to former players that he has. I mean, Lil Jordan Humphrey, another one of those guys, and he's just so untrustworthy to some of these younger players who happen to be better players. I mean, talk about Nate Adkins for a minute. Talk about Marvin Mims for a minute. And the usage of Marvin Mims has gone up for the past 5, 6, 7 weeks. It's almost linear in the amount of touches that he's gotten from the start of the season. In the first 5 games, he never even touched the football. You get like 3 or 4 games, 1 or 2 touches, and another 3 games of 1 or 2 touches, 4 or 5 touches. And then he got this big explosion in the last part of this season. So maybe we're starting to see a little bit more trust with Sean Payton and Marvin Mims. But the trust that he has in Lil Jordan Humphrey and Adam Troutman is just completely asinine, and I don't really see any basis for it. Now, Eric, I want to go back to something, talking about Javonte Williams here. And I'm talking about inside zone. I'm talking about duo schemes, ISO schemes, where they're attacking the interior of this defensive line. And we were talking about Javonte Williams running into the back of his offensive lineman a lot. Now, to me, I think if you're going to see Javonte Williams on the field, the better running schemes, and they actually have some success doing this with Javonte Williams, is pin and pull and pulling guards, lead draw plays where you're getting a linebacker or getting an offensive lineman flashing across his face, or even whether it's Michael Burton or Nate Adkins moving forward saying, hey, look for number 20, look for 45, bury your head into his back and run forward. How do the Broncos utilize that kind of game against these edge rushers, Greg Rousseau and AJ Epinesa, who are really good at setting the edge?
Yeah, these are probably 2 of the best edges against the run. They have a combined like 31 stops against the run.
Yep.
They are so good. I'm not sure how, like, honestly.
I'm specifically like pin pull. Is this a matchup where Ben Powers moves well enough? Quinn Miners is really the guy I'm talking about. And I'm going to go back to like the Cleveland Browns game of last year where they ran it down Myles Garrett's throat on pin pull. The Jets game from earlier this season. Like is that something that they could utilize to kind of change the pace of this running game a little bit?
They could, but with watching this run game, so to speak, of that's what you want to call it, they are better when they keep it more simplified, and the more complicated it gets, the more likely that somebody blows it. And I'm looking a lot at the tight ends here, and I don't trust these running backs really to follow it. They seem to get confused as to what the play is, and I think that's part of what's going on with Javonte Williams. I can't say for sure. It's only, my opinion based on watching this team, watching every single game multiple times, is the lack of burst, the lack of vision, not knowing exactly what he's supposed to be doing. I just keep it simple. Keep it simple. Keep going with what's working. Very simple blocking concepts up front. It works against the Bills. We've seen other teams keep it simple and have it work against the Bills. Keep it simple. Trust Jaleel McLaughlin and Audric Estime to get those yards. And I mean, you got to see Javonte Williams because he's the only pass blocker that they have in the group right now. Although Audric Estime had an excellent block on a Marvin Mims touchdown.
He's improving.
Was against the Chiefs?
Yeah. Was that the reverse? It was the reverse pass back to Marvin Mims. He actually had a pretty nice block on that play. I think he's had a couple nice blocks. I would want to. I obviously you don't want to do it in the playoffs, but I think it's next year we need to be seeing him more, and obviously with Javonte Williams walking out the door and not being brought back. Now Michael Ronquillo, first we have Cody W saying, if Moss isn't looking 100%, do you throw Chris Abrams drain in? What do you guys think?
So last game was kind of I mean, it's his first game back. He's going. I mean, not last game. The game before that against the Bengals. It was against Higgins. Burrow was just throwing some dimes. I really don't blame him as much. I know the first quarter he took a knee to the head. He was limping a little bit. So I don't know if he was like 100% all there, whatever, for that game. But I don't know if you take him out. He's got to really show like a visible limp or something like that, or just look lost out there. I think he'll be fine. You definitely could spell him with Drain. Chris Abrams Drain should play in this game for sure because you got to rotate all those guys. He's good enough that he needs to be on that field as well too. So I think Moss most likely plays the entire game.
I think the bigger question isn't necessarily Riley Moss. It's dang it. Jaquan McMillan. Sorry, I wanted to say Jaleel McLaughlin. And I knew that wasn't right. It gets me every time. McMillan going against Khalil Shakir. And the elite change of direction ability that Shakir has as a route runner is something that Jaquan McMillan has had constant struggles with. He's not necessarily the most fluid athlete in his lower half. And if you are seeing some struggles there, I think I would rather put Chris Abrams-Drain on the outside and slide Riley Moss or even Surtain into the inside and have him play in the slot against Khalil Shakir. That might be your best. If Shakir gets going, that might be the best way to kind of counteract that is get McMillan off the field and then put Chris Abrams-Drain on the outside. Because, I mean, Keon Coleman, he's fine as a route runner. Chris Abrams-Drain is at least athletic enough to keep up with that guy. It's going to be a size mismatch for sure, but he can keep up with Amari Cooper. He can keep up with Keon Coleman. It's the bigger thing about McMillan going against Shakir over the middle of the field that really causes me concern.
Now, we're down to the final 10 minutes. So if you guys have any burning questions, get them in with a super chat or stars. It's the best way to make sure we get to them. Otherwise, if we run out of time, we can't get to them. But we have Michael Ronquillo coming in saying, good evening, Eric, Kenneth, and Lance on the Dove Valley Deep Divers. Go Bo Broncos. And Michael also asks, it is time to see wide receiver Troy Franklin. Kenneth, what do you think? Do you think it's time we see Troy Franklin?
You can mix him in there. I know he's done pretty good on some underneath routes, some like mid-range routes, getting first downs and whatnot. He still hasn't caught that big deep ball, whatever. But I don't know. I mean, you can put him in there for a couple plays, see how he plays, whatever. He most likely won't play as much, but I don't know. Hopefully he gets one because I think he has the capability of breaking one of those smaller ones for. Maybe not for a touchdown, but maybe he won't get a touchdown, but at least like a momentum kind of play. So I'd like to give him like two chances at least at the ball.
Yeah, he deserves a couple chances, but there just seems to be a disconnect between him and Bo Nix when they attack deep. And Sean Payton hasn't figured out how to make up for it to reliably get plays out of him. And Corey Sigmund is coming in saying Javonte never gets in rhythm. He needs multiple carries multiple carries. The games he's got over 10 carries, he's been great, except that he hasn't. He actually has more games under a 4-yard average per carry, under a 3.3 yard average per carry than he does over a 3.3 yard or 4 point, however way you want to do that. 3.3 is the bare minimum. It hasn't been great. He has, I mean, even if you go back to last season, the way he finished the season, 15 carries against the Chargers, 2.7 yards per carry, 11 against New England, 2.2, 12 against Detroit, 2.3, 3.9 against the Chargers in that first game, 3.5 against the Texans, 3.6 against the Cleveland, just over the bare minimum with the 3.4 against the Buffalo. He has another game of 1.7 this season, a 2.2 this season. Mm-hmm. It's not great. Wow. Javonte Williams is a hard guy to get going because he just doesn't have the visions for it and he doesn't have the burst for it anymore.
I remember last year or the year before, there was a Broncos offensive lineman on a podcast, and he wanted to say it so bad, but he didn't want to be a bad teammate. But he essentially said he could be one of the best backs in the leagues if he had vision, and it's got to be so frustrating for an offensive lineman to block for that guy because he could be a 1,200-yard kind of guy before his injury, at least, and like a 10-plus touchdown guy. And now, I don't know. The pass blocking is the only reason he's still on the team.
Is there any Broncos player on the offensive side of the football that lacks confidence as much as Javonte Williams right now?
I don't think it's a lack of confidence. I honestly don't. I think he has a lot of confidence. I just don't think he just can translate it into performance.
It looks to me like every time when he sees that there's something there and he does break a tackle, he comes up, he gets all big and excited. But when it's not going for him, I don't want to say like moping around, tossing his head and stuff like that. But you look at his face when they zoom in on his face mask, it's almost like a deer in the headlights look. So I don't want to say like a lack of confidence or more of a like confidence in his ability. It's like lack of. I don't really know the best way to say it.
More of a fear getting hurt again.
It could be that. It could be that, but I think it's like a lack of trust in his own ability. Like he's confident. You could tell he runs with confidence, but when it's not going well, it's almost not like I said, it's not like mopey, but it's like the deer in the headlights. Like he doesn't know what's going on around him right now.
I know. I see the mopiness. I see it. It seems like it's wearing on him.
Saying that?
It seems like it's wearing on him because he knows he's better than this. And it just seems like anything he does, it just doesn't help. So I don't know. For me, it doesn't. I've never seen that guy smile in the last year, or whatever. It just seems like this game is wearing on him, and it could be because he's not what he was. He's like 75% what he used to be.
No.
And we also have here Savage Boy Kev talking about running backs. I think it's a good thing to throw in, saying, "I know it's still the playoffs. It is, but we'll still take your question. How would you guys go about the running back situation this offseason?" Quickly, Kenneth, what would be your plan? Would you go draft or free agency? Or both?
Well, yeah, it'd be both. Maybe try to steal somebody's backup running back. With the Steelers' backup running back Warren. I know Chubb is out there, but he's coming off that injury. Maybe it'll be 1 year removed at least. Maybe you can get him a little bit cheaper. But most likely, you're going to try to get your guy through the draft. You might have a stopgap that's a free agent.
Lance, what about you?
Am I freezing? Can you guys see me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can see you.
Sorry, I just had some issues there for a second. I think you got to go both. Whether it's finding a cheap veteran on the open market if you possibly can, but this running back class is insane. It's very good. Whether it's Ashton Genty, Amarian Hampton, you've got Cam Scadaboo, which I know everybody in Broncos country is like drooling over the versatility there. Whether it's Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins from Ohio State, RJ Harvey from UCF is a guy that really intrigues me as a smaller back that has some really good speed. To me, I think that you need to target one of those running backs out of Ohio State. And quite honestly, I think it's Quinshon Judkins. That dude is insane. He's not quite the most creative player, but you put him in a straight line and say go, and he's going to go. He's very difficult to bring down. He fits the mold of a Sean Payton running back if you want him to do something like that. Like that's the guy that I really like for this Broncos offense.
And Toby coming in saying, "LOL, they'll draft Gianti in the first, and Sean still won't run the ball." I have an ongoing joke with my good friend and colleague Nick Kendall that's hopefully giving him nightmares and keeping up at night. That Sean Payton's going to trade 3 first-round picks to move up and draft Ashton Gianti, just because I know how much Nick loves first-round running backs, and then adding in the trading up for it and essentially using 4 first-round picks to get him. I hope that is a nightmare that Nick is having, and it's keeping him up at night just because I'm such a great friend to him.
Well, I can see why Sean Payton would love Ashton Genty because I was listening to the NFL Stock Exchange podcast the other day with Trevor Sikkema and Connor Rogers, and they were doing their running back rankings going into draft season. And Connor Rogers is like, this is the guy. This is the guy that everyone says, okay, it's Alvin Kamara. It's Alvin Kamara. This is Alvin Kamara. That no, this kid here, Ashton Genty, is Alvin Kamara. He has the contact balance, the ability as a receiver, the vision, the burst, the jump cutting ability. Like that's probably my most favorite comparison to him. I've seen a lot of MJD comparisons. I even threw out there LaDainian Tomlinson, even though I don't like comparing players to Hall of Famers, but when you watch him run, the ability and the explosiveness in his lower half is just ridiculous. Even against Penn State in that bowl game, where that jump cut ability was still there. Penn State was running 9-man boxes, and he still ran for 100 yards on 25 carries. Like it's there. This kid's
legit. 30 carries.
Was it? I don't remember if it was 30 carries or not, but still, regardless, there was one play specifically. I think it was like a 4-yard run. He was bottled up in the backfield, hit a jump cut, buried his head, and ran for 5 yards. It was insane. Like this kid's special.
And Roy, I don't actually think the Broncos would do that. I do think they would consider trading up for him, not at that price. But yeah, I am.
That's why to get Nick.
I definitely think that Gianti is up there for the Broncos, along with Warren and Loveland. it might be a lesser valued position year early for the Broncos. And before we get out here, we have Max coming in saying
Max.
with the donation. Thank you, Max. We appreciate that. Saying great to see the whole crew tonight. Do you think Estime will get the bulk of the carries? Go Broncos. We know Lance thinks he does. What about you, Kenneth?
I think Jaleel does. I think it's more like 50-50, but I think Jaleel's going to edge him out for the more carries. I think Jaleel, I don't know. He plays like he has a mentality right now. I feel like that as a coach, he would want. He plays with 100%. He looks like he's angry. He puts everything out on there on the field or whatever. And he's confident. So I think he's going to get the more, especially since he's been with the team another year, I guess.
Jaleel sees the hole and just goes, which is something that you don't see often for these smaller backs of his type. They typically are overly patient, looking for that big play, that wide open hold, so they can go get 20 plus yards consistently, which they can lead to them being so boomer bust. Jaleel just kind of sees it and goes, and then he uses his shiftiness and agility to make guys miss and pick up those extra yards. I think Jaleel McLaughlin will see the bulk of the carries, and I think we're kind of seeing it as he's the main runner. Audric Estime is the change of pace, short yardage guy, and then Javonte Williams is there as the receiver out of the backfield and the blocker. And the way that they've been used kind of replicates that that belief here. And it's not dissimilar as Ty Johnson of the Buffalo Bills, to go bring it back to the game before we get out of here. Over almost 70% of the plays that Ty Johnson's on the field is a pass play.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
They like to do that a lot, but that is yeah, no, I'm not serious about that. I'm just trying to give Nick nightmares. That's all. So next time Nick's on, make sure you guys throw out that out there. What do you think of 3 first-round picks for trading up for Ginty in the first round?
I'm going to ask him that every Broncos for breakfast.
Make it spread. Don't tell him this, though. My favorite running back for the Broncos is the kid out of Iowa.
Yeah, Caleb Johnson. I was just about to say that.
Don't tell Nick that, though.
Yeah, Nick would do unspeakable things if the Broncos drafted Caleb Johnson out of Iowa this year. And you could probably have him in the second round if you wanted to. That kid's special too. He's big back, good burst, run inside, outside, to good receiving ability, decent pass protector. Like, dude, this running back class is so insanely stacked. It's ridiculous.
Now, I am going to, before we get out of here, I'm going to say one thing, and it's going to be bold. If the Broncos beat the Bills, I think they'll beat the Chiefs.
I'm with you. I'm 100% there with you. Absolutely 100%.
Yeah, I don't trust the Chiefs.
Yep.
And look at what happened the first time that the Broncos went down to Arrowhead. Obviously, the blocked field goal sucks, but they contained Patrick Mahomes for the majority of that game. They played very, very well defensively. And while the Broncos didn't do a whole lot offensively, they sustained drives when they needed to. They put points up on the board when they absolutely needed it. They had big players making big-time plays in the most critical situations, which has been a theme for this season, quite honestly. You look at every single game, sometimes, whether it's Marvin Mims or Nick Bonito or Cortland Sutton, it doesn't matter who it is. They have had some big time player, one of their best players, make a big play in the biggest times. And if they can do that if they can somehow sneak away, I picked the Broncos to win. Just now, point blank, period. I'm picking the Broncos to win this game against the Bills. And if they go to Arrowhead, they're going to beat the Chiefs too.
Now, I know, Kenneth, I can't remember your score prediction, but if I remember right, you had the Broncos winning this game too, right?
Yeah, like 105-3, I think. That would be funny if it happened. This would go viral. I had the Broncos winning 28-24.
Yeah, I am the lone one of the three of us that have the Broncos losing this game, unfortunately. And Peter, I did see it, and that's what made me think of it. I was doing a quick scroll through the chat, and I saw that, but I don't see it. I think that the Bills are going to feast on these linebackers the Broncos have, and hopefully, I saw somebody else say this earlier that normally I'm against. I think it was Chase Wellner. Normally say that this might be the first year I'm actually on board with the Broncos investing in linebacker. I'm all for it. I'm all for investing in linebacker this year. Needs to be done. But anyways, that's going to do it for us tonight. As always, you guys can subscribe, like, and share. It only takes a matter of seconds for you to do all of that, and it helps us so much with the algorithms that are ever changing here on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on all that, and it helps us get to more viewers and bring in more new faces. And you can also go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star review for a chance to win some swag each month. You can follow us on Instagram at Mile High Huddle with an underscore between mile and high and huddle. And if you want, you can go to help us out by buying some awesome merch like these hats, the Valley Deep Divers hats we have. There are shirts, there are, I believe, sweatshirts, there are posters, mugs, all sorts of stuff at mhhmerch.com. You can get your merch on. I won't say swag. I think it's a weird word. And you guys can go to facebook.com and follow us, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. You can get access to all the podcasts and all of the written content that we do there, just as you can following us on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, at Mile High Huddle. You can follow us each individually on Twitter as well, at Kenneth_MHH, at Erick Trickel for myself, and at Lance S_MHH for all of our own personal Twitter accounts that you can reach out to us on. At the MHH Pod is another Mile High Huddle pod or Mile High Huddle Twitter account there, and you guys can get access to all sorts of written content stuff on there. And you can follow the Dove Valley Deep Divers Twitter account at DVDD_pod on Twitter as well. Now, that's a lot. Every weekend, every week, it's always a lot to get in there. And then thank you all to all the super chats, everybody who came in, starred, and all of you guys for joining the chat. But quick rundown of that. Papa Bear coming in with the $5 donation at the start of the show. Gary Palmer with the $20. Cody W with a pair of $2. And then Max coming in with Canadian $5. We appreciate all of you guys so much. Helps us keep the lights on, helps me do this full time. We appreciate all of you guys tuning in because you know, it helps out with the algorithm some, getting the viewers on it. Anybody who sent stars and I did not get your comment flash on the screen, I apologize. Scott is no longer with us on Friday nights, and I don't have the ability to see the Facebook stars on through what we stream through, and so I apologize for that, but you guys are very much appreciated and thanked as well. Now, before we get out of here, any last words, Kenneth?
This is so exciting to be back in the playoffs since 2015. I know we had 15 quarterbacks or something like that since Peyton Manning. It's something insane. So it's really cool to see start a whole new generation of talent on this Broncos team, a whole new wave back in the playoffs with a ton of confidence. It's a rookie quarterback. This is the most confident I've ever been in a rookie quarterback, just because of his composure, how he carries himself. And I'm going to be excited for this. So if you guys enjoy the game, enjoy with the family, enjoy it by yourself. Sometimes I got to watch it by myself. But yeah, don't drink and drive. Have a great time. Get out and be active. I just started this little app where me and my dog are running a marathon, a mile and a half at a time. It's called like Conquer, I think it's called.
Cool.
They actually have cool like Star Wars ones too as well. So you don't have to do the marathon or English channel. They have some really cool stuff. I'll send you the thing on Facebook.
Right, Eric's face was priceless just now.
All right, Lance, any more words from you? No? Okay, I'll get you out of here.
Oh, good Lord,
I was always done though.
We got along so well. You didn't try to slap me.
All right. Things are.
Oh no! I'm sorry.
Why does it have to be this way? Anyways, no. Just again, thanks for having me on, guys. It's great to be back on my show. Damn it. It's always good to talk football with you guys. It's always good to talk talk Broncos. Excited about this game on Sunday. I do think the Broncos are going to win 24-23. Check out our the entire roundtable at milehighhuddle.com. And also, guys, I wrote an article on Monday following the game against the Chiefs. 5 big takeaways from this Broncos seasons, and I think you guys are going to like it because you got your head coach, you got your franchise quarterback, you've got money, you've got draft picks. This season is a big time success, and moving forward, I think the Broncos are going to be in this situation a lot for the next decade, man. I'm super excited for the future of this franchise. And again, thank you all. You all stay safe and take care. Have a great rest of your weekend, and as always, go Broncos.
Well, we have Savage Boy Kev coming in. See you guys next week for the Chiefs preview. Definitely hope so. But as Michael Ronquillo says, win or lose, it's going to be okay. It's what Lance was getting at. The Broncos exceeded expectations this season. They were projected. Their over under was at 5.5 wins, and here we are as a playoff team. Even though since 7 teams they changed the playoff format, only 7 team has upset the number 2 seed. I think that there's a chance we see this year. I'm not overly confident in it, but there's a chance. There's always a chance. Any given Sunday, anything can happen, and it's a playoffs.
Put a Cam Newton face on Josh Allen. because we handled him pretty well.
But it's the playoffs where the regular season records, they don't matter now.
It don't matter.
Thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you next Friday. And I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe. Don't drink or drive. And as always, go Broncos.